once again, welcome to Talking Small Press Comics. This is episode 51, Bingo, with Steve Peter right there, and myself, Larned Justin. Oh, he just shot me. And we had a little. We tried this yesterday and had some technical difficulties, so we're back again trying it. But we've got a number of comics to go through. Steve has his magnifying glass so he can read the small print.
Hey, where'd my mustache go?
Did you have a mustache?
What happened?
Oh my gosh. Is that it? Is that the one? Is that the real one, or there's the real one in your pocket, or?
I think the little green grimmies, they show up at night sometimes when I go to sleep. Sometimes I wake up and I see them dancing on the windowsill. The little green grimmy guys.
Yeah.
I think they had a pair. They probably found my scissors and but everything's cool. I'm so
doesn't
happy.
matter. It's not going to affect the comics that we review.
Yeah, this is good. Listen, we get a lot of viewers, right?
Yes.
So this is your chance to vote, people. Mustache or no mustache?
Oh.
What do you think?
There may be some. I'm hoping there's no voter irregularities that we have to get into if we're going to have a vote.
There's another vote.
That's always a possibility.
Would you like to see Larned without the beard? That's a big vote.
Yeah.
Vote, people.
And not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Right.
No, because I have no chin, and then I have sagging jowls. And
well, I have no chin also. I don't have much of a chin. I don't have much of a chin. But I got to say, the reason I grew a mustache, well, not really the reason. I was in my teens. I did it to be cool. But I found out that I have a very thin upper lip.
Oh.
I don't have big lips. And if you have, for instance, if you have a small chin, beard will fill it out, make it look more complete.
Yes.
If you have, you don't have big lips up here, then a mustache fills that in.
Big lip.
Yeah. And all of this has
tongue. Tongue there, okay. All right.
And all of this has. I just gotta say, this has everything to do with comics.
Yeah.
Everything to do with comics.
Not a thing.
I'm not
Okay,
sure
let's get
why.
started. What do you got first?
Let's get the big one out of the way. We got 2,000 Joe Bagdon of micro comics here.
This is the greatest thing ever. I got them in a little bag.
We got a bunch of them, man.
Let's show them how they come. These are micro comics, and these are from Joe Bagdon. And you get what the deal is. Let me get this.
We love Joe Bagdon, man.
You get 3 micro comics in an envelope for $2. Okay, I'm going to open this up and bring them out.
Yeah.
Here they are, and I just bumped the camera. Here's the 3 micro comics that were in that one. Okay. There. Okay, and that one. So there's 3 micro comics in an envelope. Now, he also has this, which is very interesting. This is a card that lists... Yeah, get yours out.
Yep. Looks like this on one side.
Yeah. This lists all 24 comics that are available. So I'm thinking whatever ones you pick, I think he will put it in the envelope and send to you.
Then I see you've already filled out your checklist. You've put checks on the ones you have.
I filled it out because he sent us not all 24, but darn close to all 24.
Well, we got a lot of them, and they're all pretty.
So I checked all the ones off that he sent. Then you have a chance also randomly to get original artwork by one of the cartoonists. And this one is by Tony Lorenz.
Oh.
And that's an original drawing.
My pal, Tony.
By Tony Lorenz that came in one of the packages for me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool.
I don't think this is an original, but it's pretty cool. whatever.
Is that what you got? I can't tell. Yeah. Can you tell if it's...
well, it's got the artist's signature on the back. So
yes.
Maybe it is an original.
Yeah, I think it's an original.
Yeah, hand-drawn, one-of-a-kind card created by the artist. I'm just trying to figure out who the artist is.
Oh, yeah. It took me a while to figure out that this was Tony Lorenz, but I figured it out.
Now this comes in handy when you got micro comics.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to have this.
Trying to get mine over there.
If you're an old fogey like me, I'm not. I think is that Joe Bagdon? It might be Joe himself.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I think that's Joe. Anyway, it looks like this. And it's awesome.
Joe. Yeah. There's another one. I'm just going to open up.
Look at the signature. Does that look like it would be a Joe Bagdon signature? It's hard to tell, right?
No, I wouldn't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
He lists...
cool to have, whatever.
He does list all the artists in some of these comics. They're the ones that did it.
Yeah.
But they're all different. There's one.
Oh, that's Steve Shipley. That's Steve Shipley.
This is Steve Shipley's? Yes, I see that. Yeah. And here's another one.
Yeah.
And here's actually somehow I got two of these. Gina, I got two of those.
Oh, I didn't get that one. Can you send me the other one?
Yeah, I could send you that.
Yeah, I've just been looking through these. There's a lot of great stuff.
There.
Yeah, thanks. I'll catch it.
Yeah.
I got it. I got it right here.
One other thing that Joe told me. Let's say you want to buy all 24. If you do that, it costs $25 for all 24 comics, and he sends them in a plastic box, made specially for these comics, and sealed. And that's what you get if you want all 24 comics for $25.
$25, and you get all of this stuff. And I'm telling you,
plus a plastic box, real cool. Yeah.
I mean, look here. I mean, this there's just.
Oh yeah.
They're just all a bunch of great comics. And you got artists like Floyd Lewis and Joe himself and Steve Shipley and Tony Lorenz.
Show how some of these open different. I was gonna. Oh yeah, like this one. Watch how this one opens.
I don't have that one either.
You know, well, you got some different ones, but look, it opens like that, and then these pages turn. It's like this. You know, it's hard to do on here, but
who's that artist?
I have to put my glasses on because the print is kind of small in these.
There you go.
Yeah.
My third eye is right here.
Yeah, this one, let me find it. Oh, boy.
Probably tell you.
Let me tell you, that's
on the back cover.
Small print.
Yeah. Look on the back cover where it says copyright at the bottom.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
Yeah.
This is Joe Bagdon. This is Joe Bagdon's art.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Joe Bagdon.
He is so good. I mean, you could say this guy's work deserves to be seen in a bigger size.
I know, but this is very clever what he does here.
Yeah.
And I know that he's put a ton of work into doing this.
Well, I mean, I was looking at, this would be issue number 23, Smokescreen. This one is, we got so many here, we could go through them.
Just happen to have that one out.
Joe Bagdon. Again, the type is extremely tiny. It looks like it was drawn full size. I'm sure it was.
It has to be.
And but you know, you need a magnifying glass. But if you got a magnifying glass, this is a lot of fun to read.
But look at the detail. The detail in here.
This artwork is by Tony Lorenz and inked by Tom A. Hearn. So two of our favorites. One of the finest of pencilers, one of the finest inkers in small print, and written by Ken Anthony II, who is a superb
I thought you said it was Joe Bagdon's art, but it's Tony Lorenz.
I might have said that. I lied. I was looking at the back cover. I was looking at the back cover, like I told you to do, and I was wrong. I was assuming that if it would say here, my mistake, my bad.
Yeah, it's Tony Lorenz.
Tony and Tom Ahern, knockout artwork. Yeah, you're right about the detail.
Oh, the detail is unbelievable.
And Ken Anthony, he's a pal.
And he wrote it.
Excellent
Ken
writer.
Anthony wrote it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, you can really have fun with this. You can, start collecting them. You don't have to do it all at once. You can collect them a little at a time. They're only $2 for 3. So
this one's about a team of heroes, 3 heroes. Oops, don't cover up the artwork. And there they are. And they have exciting adventures, and a really good short story. One thing I learned, if you don't mind me, indulge me for a second.
Go ahead.
When we've talked about Joe Bagdon's micro comics before, because we received sort of a sample package, like an ash can, and this was one of the ones we got here. And
yes, I have that one. Yes,
and that's Ricochet McGlade. Ricochet McGlade. And the thing about the story, I got like at least 3 of them here that have Ricochet McGlade stories, and they always start with the detective fully clothed and always a voluptuous woman, extremely scantily clad, leaving little to the imagination, and stuff
what
goes on.
That? Is that AI art, or what is that?
It looks like AI to me.
Yeah, it looks like AI. It looks like, when you look at it, it looks like a photograph, but it's not a photograph.
Yeah, and it's Floyd Lewis. Floyd Lewis put this together, and it's funny. I mean, it's really funny. It's short little funny snippets of a detective battling the bad guys with a almost completely naked for no reason lady. Just apparently she just happens to be almost completely naked right next to him. What could be better?
At first I thought those were like dolls that were posed. You know how there's some dolls that you can pose?
I mean, it could be.
No, I guess not. Maybe it's AI art. It's very different.
Here's one further down the line, issue number 11. We got Ricochet McGlade back. And there he is, right on the front cover. Yep, and there she is, and there he is. And, I mean, yeah, so, his boss shows up, McGlade, and I don't know what, I have to reread it, but, there she is. Like, hi, boss, this is my friend, and she's almost naked. And, well, let's go get the bad guys. And they do, and there's some excitement in these. But it's quite comical excitement. So I had a kick out of those. There was like at least 3 of those. You mentioned Steve Shipley. Steve Shipley, this is the one you showed, Toons, and this is hilarious stuff. People forget, well, I don't forget, but Steve Shipley is one funny guy when he wants to be. I like this. He's at the there's a guy at the dentist. He says, "You want the tooth? You can't handle the tooth." With a nod to that old movie. Let's see.
Here's another one. These are just cool. Just very cool. There's a bunch of them.
It says,
all different cartoonists, and a lot of, quite a bit by Joe Bagdon himself.
Yeah.
But,
so what does it say? What did we say? It's obvious this guy took offense. And you can see this guy over there walking away with the offense, with a part of a fence.
Yes.
This guy took offense.
Please don't explain them.
I won't explain that. Did you get it?
Yes.
A couple of these have great artwork and great stuff from Steve Shipley.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
Oh my gosh.
It's great. Yeah. I recommend getting, send for one. See what they're like. $2. We'll have Joe's info down below.
One more. I can't help myself.
Yeah, I know. Bulk. Yeah,
this one is this one is hilarious. The not so incredible Bulk. It looks like the cover to the Hulk #1. Fantasy as you don't like it, it says. So we got a Bruce Brainier, and there's a test, like in the original origin of the Hulk, there was a gamma ray test, and everybody was in a bunker. Well, he's in a bunker here with Betsy Cross, I think it is, Betty Cross, and...
who's the artist on that?
Is this Joe?
I don't think so, but I lost mine here among the mess.
I was thinking it's Joe. I don't see any credits other than it was copyright by Joe.
Might be Joe.
That's what I meant earlier. If I can't find any signature or any credits, I look on the back and it just says copyright Joe, and I sort of assume it's Joe, but it might be wrong. But it's great parody artwork. This guy, so he goes off to save the kid, you know. The kid's out there in the test area, and he runs off like, you know, Bruce Banner saved, or Rick Jones. I mean, he endured the full brunt of the explosion, which turned him into the Hulk. Well, this guy, there's an explosion, and he turns into the Bulk. And here he is from behind. But there's one problem. There's one problem, and I'll read you because, let's use this. Oh my, Bruce has turned into a huge monster. And there's a lady watching. There's a couple of ladies. She says, too bad not everything grew huge. And and they're like, oh, how disappointing. You know, and he gets pissed off and busts out of there. You know, who could blame him, poor guy?
So,
if you gain the whole world but lose your soul, you know what I mean?
Okay. Anyway.
I'm pretty good. I go too...
Huh?
I try not to go too far.
Yeah, right. Sort of. All right.
Great.
Anyway, those are very cool. Yeah.
We can't stay on these forever. There's Dark Girl.
Too many of them, but...
Floyd Lewis, Dark Girl Classic, it says, and he's got some great artwork. This was interesting because it looks like Floyd Lewis, and he's done so many. This one looks like it was probably copied from the pencils.
Maybe.
So that's pretty nice. Yeah, that's some nice artwork, but it's different. It doesn't look like it was inked. It looks
like washes or something. I can't tell because I
maybe.
don't know.
But it's definitely, there's something different about this.
Yeah.
Something different, you know. So I'm thinking maybe it was copied from the pencils. Yeah. Anyway,
great stuff. It's just great.
Joe Bagdon, The Little Mummy. That's another funny one. And you can see Joe on his funny artwork. You know, he's kind of like Shipley looking, kind of like Steve Shipley there. Okay, well, I don't want to go on too long on these.
We've got a number of things to go through, so they're very cool.
A lot of great stuff. This is totally, for $25, that is beyond a steal. I mean,
if you want them all, otherwise you can have fun collecting them a little bit at a time for $2. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, you can't lose.
No.
They're great comics.
Yeah. And they're easy to store. Not like big comics where you got to have a lot of room.
Yeah.
All right. So, next up is what?
We want to talk about those other guys that have that show over there, Ryan and Levi Erickson.
Oh, yes.
We got a couple from them. What's the name of that darn show?
First?
What's the name of their show?
Comics in the Making.
Comics in the Making, which is an excellent show.
You want to catch that, but we're going to show you their comics so you know that they know what they're talking about. So which one do you want to do first?
Let's start with The Big.
The Big. This is by
Levi.
Levi Erickson. I almost said it backwards. It's by Levi Erickson. Let me just show you. I don't know if he sent you this or not.
I'm holding the wrong one. This is The Big.
Yeah, this is a poster, kind of, he sent me.
Oh, I didn't get that.
An ad for The Big. And if you notice, it says number 1/2. I guess this one is number 1. And then
like
the poster is 1/2. But look at that. I mean, very cool artwork. And
that's a
Big
gripping cover
by Levi. And he says this is an exclusive Ashcan preview. So he is planning more issues to round out the story here. So that's going to be cool. But let me just show you his artwork in here so you get an idea. what these guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean that's nice. That's really nice.
Really good. Really good stuff. And you know, the big, there's no secret, the big is Sasquatch. You know, all the stories about him, and this is very, very unique take on that. And this one is, let me just check the page count, which he does not list, but I don't know how many pages that is, but I got a feeling, you know, there's a lot more coming to the story. 10, when you read what he says here, I think you're going to see a lot more of the big.
Like 20 pages or something like that.
Maybe not quite, but yeah, close.
It's kind of scary stuff, you know, out there. You got the dog barking, and, you know, the dog was pinned up.
Yeah, but that snapped.
And he's on the loose.
You can see him right here running.
Yeah. Something's out there.
Whatever he saw.
Something is out there. Something frightening.
He saw something. Yeah. So.
And these other guys go looking for this something out there.
There's a couple hunters here.
Yep. And he's out there, not too far from them, as you can see.
Yeah. There's the other hunter close-up of him.
Yeah.
Anyway, without giving everything away, because it's not real long, but what a great book. And when you see their, you know, when they start talking comics on their show, this is the kind of work they're doing, or he is, and then we're going to show you Ryan Holgersen's next.
So they're coming from the perspective of people who know how to make comics.
Yeah.
And
this is Ryan Holgersen's Pizza Night.
Pizza Night.
Yeah.
This one is
cool cover.
Also extremely cool. I didn't know what the back cover was about, but if you read the story, you'll find out.
Story, you will find out. Yeah.
Yep.
So
I will say, Ryan also is the storytelling is perfectly paced. It's creepy.
Look at this house Ryan drew.
Right.
I mean, that is some great artwork. And he has a certain style. I've kind of been acquainted with Ryan for a long time, and I remember his brand is Slackmatic, if you've heard of that, Slackmatic. And his drawing style is like the girl down here. I guess that's a girl. No, that's a guy.
That's the guy.
Don't have beards.
That's the pizza delivery guy.
Yeah.
He gets it over his head.
Coming up to the door.
Yeah. And there's the girl. Where? Right there. There's the girl.
Yeah.
So he shows up and he's like, she tells him he's 2 hours late. He's delivering for Pizza Pit. So he's 2 hours late, and then she starts talking to him, and that says, come inside, it's cold outside. He's like, I'm not supposed to. He said, come on in, it's cold. And then the exciting part starts to happen.
Yeah, there's somebody else in the house.
Okay, let me see, can I show this page or not? Because this one's sort of mature audiences, because there is nudity in it, but it's quite a story.
Only one page, I think.
Yeah, and you know, she starts to seduce him. Yep.
Yeah.
So she's
see there's kind of a demon. You might want to know what the red sticks on the back are for. Here you can see she's using a breadstick cross to defeat the demon.
That's him. Yeah, that's him. Actually,
that's why the breadsticks are on the back.
The cross did not work because that was a religious symbol, and these vampires have evolved to the point where, but he was able to throw some garlic. He had some garlic sauce, and he threw that in her face, and you can see that was not a very comfortable feeling for her.
No.
So she calls for her father, who she lives with, and her father is kind of a Nosferatu type vampire.
Yeah, that's the guy I was showing. He's the father.
So then you got this poor pizza delivery guy, and he has to figure all he's got is a box of pizza and breadsticks and garlic sauce, and he has to battle these vampires.
So he's...
That's pretty excellent.
He's using what he has, breadsticks, to fight the vampire.
So
I keep thinking he's a girl, but I don't know why I keep thinking that. It's
he's got long hair. He's got long hair, and there's a lot of excitement in this battle.
Does have a beard.
Yeah, a little bit of a beard. So this is terrific. This is terrific.
Really good.
Both of these are excellent. So these guys, we're fans, guys. Keep doing the show. I noticed you went like a week. Well, let me say something about it, because their newest episode was talking about censorship.
Yes.
Now,
I just saw that.
Right, it's a great episode. We should put the link down below to their channel.
I will. I will.
But the thing is, they posted this like 2 or 3 days ago, and I went on and I watched it and I clicked like and all that stuff, and the next day it was gone. It disappeared, and I'm like, their video on censorship got censored. And
Really?
I don't know why he took it down. Maybe he had to do a little maintenance on that.
Oh, okay, because I just looked at it again. It's up now.
Yeah, it's back up now.
Okay, I didn't know it went down.
It was up for, I don't know,
It got censored.
A night and a day, and then it was gone.
Yeah, well, it probably got censored.
I couldn't, I just
You talk
died.
about censorship, that's what happens.
Yeah, that's it. That's censorship for you right there.
Right. Anyway, don't forget the big. Very cool.
Right.
Very cool. All
Yeah,
right.
nice to know. You got something you want to show?
I was just going to toot a little bit of a horn here, if you don't mind.
Toot your horn.
Tom Felrath produces.
Oh, yeah.
Hold this up. Strange Times. Okay? And there's 3 issues of Strange Times. This one I did the cover for and some artwork in the middle. This one is Nat Levin did all the rubber stamp artwork. And there's a third one that I don't have in front of me. And what has happened is the Columbia University in New York has requested that he send them all 3 issues of Strange Times, and they want to include it in their rare books mini comics section. And I was pretty excited about that, especially since I have the cover.
The cover.
And
it's one of my favorite pieces of art that you ever did, really. I
have 2 strips inside there and a number of other pencil sketches like this.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was fantastic. And if you want my autograph, it's like $25 an autograph.
Right.
I will send it to you.
If you want to be fair, this is our show, so you would want to send $25 to Larned and $25 to me.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it has to be equal.
It has to be equal. Anyway, that's pretty exciting news, and especially for Tom Felrath. He's the guy that produced the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the producer of the books, the publisher. So.
And that guy was out of small press like 80s, 90s, 2000s. He was like 30 years.
He came back roaring.
Came back with a vengeance. Came back with a bang. He's really put out some great comics.
Columbia University. Awesome. So.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
I'm done promoting myself.
Yeah, you're famous now. You're famous now.
Yeah.
I mentioned on Wikipedia somewhere.
Are you? That's a shame.
I think it was like, the first man, or maybe it's Revolutionary War.
That's Adam.
Yeah. Oh, that wasn't me?
No, it's Adam.
Well, I was born a long time ago.
I know that. I know that for sure. You're close. Okay, go ahead.
That was the stupidest joke I ever. That was such a stupid joke. Okay, but anyway, let's go. Let's redeem ourselves. Let's move ahead. I got Alan Sissom.
Yeah. We got
great pal.
Yeah, we got Imagination Link from Alan Sissom.
Right, 2 terrific mini comics.
Really?
One of our favorite guys out there.
Well, Hump is really interesting. Look at who's in there. Alan Groening, Tom Cherry, Brian Canini, Larry Tisch, Clark Dismeyer, and Alan Sissom.
Yeah, you can't lose with a lineup like that.
All in this tiny little book. Here's a Tom Cherry right in the front. There's Tom Cherry.
Those funky idiots.
Yep. Met Tom a long time ago at Space, and he always remembered me and always sent me stuff, and he always sent me maybe a little postcard with cartoons on it. And Tom Cherry is an actor and also does podcasts, a radio show. He does a lot.
Multifaceted individual.
Yeah.
So Brian Canini on the next page.
Brian Canini is right there.
Yeah.
With his
distinctive stylings.
Couple-page cartoon there in this.
Yeah, there's a guy. He wakes up in the hospital. His leg is amputated, and his leg is gone. And then there's some discussion, and at the end, the guy says, "I'm not really a doctor."
Not really a doctor.
Sheepishly, is that okay? I amputated your leg. That reminds me of something.
Alan Sissom himself, right here.
There we go. That one's funny too.
Yeah. Little gag there.
So this lady's talking.
Another Tom Cherry. Funky Idiots.
Funky Idiots are back.
Yeah.
He says he's wearing froggy sunglasses to prevent hummingbirds from pecking out his eyes.
Yeah.
And the lady friend says, "How long have you had that problem?" He says, "With hummingbirds?" And she said, "No, a reality."
Clark Dismeyer, right here.
Yep. Dismeyer, Mushy the Mushroom.
See, what's cool about this, he's got a ship in a bottle here. However, where the heck's the ship? Well, it's a submarine.
There you go. That explains it.
Well, we've given away all the jokes in here almost.
Right,
I'm
almost.
saving the rest. I'm not giving away any more.
There's another mushy strip later on.
Yeah.
We won't give it away. If you can read really fast, but we're not going to give it away.
No.
Larry Tisch, his distinctive stylings, he gets into politics and stuff like that. But the one thing he got that nobody can disagree about is he got Donald Trump's hair right.
Yeah.
So that's Donald Trump with his hair. And down below, again,
hair right.
It's blowing in the other direction.
It's blowing the other way, which happens. Yeah.
But that's Donald Trump. And Alan Groening's cover, this one looks like AI.
That looks like AI for sure.
Yeah. But we know that Alan Groening...
Goose step there.
Alan Groening is a super artist, and we know he doesn't need AI. I mean, but it's a useful tool.
Just having fun.
Yeah, if you're just having fun, that's cool. But he is an excellent artist in his own right.
Is Imagination Link number 57, which tells me and you there's a lot of these. Long story here.
Right.
And this is all by Alan Sissom.
Yeah. And he's talking about the Link, whom we have seen in previous episodes, is going on about the saga of the Link. Where is he at? Right there.
Right there is the Link.
A little bowling ball-shaped robot that lands on Earth.
Flies through space.
And is sentient. It has acquired intelligence. This one actually goes back. It goes back to his origin. For the previous issue, it was further along in this, but it just explains something.
That's what he's doing here, exactly.
Yeah.
He tells you in this part what's going on here, so you'll know. But yes, this is science fiction, the Link, and it's...
There was a rock, an intelligent rock floating in space, and this spacecraft goes flying by. And it's been out there for thousands of million years, whatever, and there's a transference of intelligence from this sentient rock to the spacecraft, and it's just part of the origin story.
Yeah, right.
There's some good artwork in here too. This last couple of pages.
There's some people in here and
very moody.
Yeah, but he shows some of these people being affected by what's going on in outer space.
These would be the bad guys, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Because they made a couple of young friends in previous episodes. And these guys are conducting some sort of a satanic ritual. That tells you right there these are the bad guys.
Not good.
Not good.
This is
pentagrams.
$2. $2 from Alan Sissom. Again, all the information will be below. On the back, yes, coming soon. Who is she?
I don't know. That's a nice
part
photo, too.
Does she play in the ongoing story? Now, that's somebody different. We haven't seen anybody like that in here.
Yep.
So that's coming. Find out in a few short months.
Makes me wonder, and this is just a crazy, I'm throwing this out there, what if she is the embodiment of the
Link.
The robot, the Link?
Yeah.
What if that's her embodiment? What if that's something that we're going to... Anyway, it'll be interesting to find out.
We're just guessing, but...
A wild guess. I have no idea. But that's a beautiful illustration there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, really nice. Okay. Got that.
We got like 2 more, folks. Hang in there.
Yeah, what next? What do you got?
Jim Maine, the great Jim Maine. Grim Jim, the immortal Jim Maine. Am I laying on too thick, Jim?
Pretty thick.
Pretty thick, yeah.
what I like cowboys. I like cowboy stories.
Right.
The Adventures of Clay Hitchens. Now, what this means is Clay Hitchens is going to get his own comic book in the future. This is a couple of stories that Jim had posted before. I think in I don't remember which publication they were in.
I believe it was in Pazit.
I think you're right. And so he's reposted them in here so that you can have everything together when you collect these.
Yeah.
And there's 2 stories in here by Verrill Holt Bond. He's the artist. An excellent artist.
Look at, I love Verrill's artwork in color, when he's in color.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Oh, my God. And the back cover is inked by somebody.
I don't know.
You see this? Verrill didn't ink that back cover.
It's drawn by Verrill, but I don't know.
It's inside somewhere.
Inked it, but look at Verrill's art.
Verrill Bond and Mark Haynes.
Oh, okay. Mark Haynes.
He's an excellent artist in his own right, and he inks that, and it looks nice.
Yeah.
But
you know what? I like cowboy stories, and I actually like to draw cowboy stories sometimes. But you know what? The hardest thing to do with a cowboy? Draw the cowboy hat.
Oh, yeah?
That is the most difficult thing, and if you get it right, it looks great, like Verrill does. But if you don't get it right, like me, it doesn't look so good. It's not easy. You think it's easy until you try to do it. And look, from the back, he's got one. You try it, and it is hard to do. But anyway, these are great stories.
And the story is incredibly well written by Jim Maine. You know, he may be one of the most underestimated writers out there. Most people, I guess, think of him as a publisher, but he's one of the best writers in small press.
Yeah, and these are typical.
I really mean that.
Solid cowboy stories, if you know what I mean. I mean, it's just good westerns.
Yeah,
and,
like Sergio Leone. This guy shows up in town. This guy shows up in town and goes through Clay Hitchens. And goes through some violence that occurs, or somebody's mistreating a lady in the saloon,
and he doesn't
comes
go
to
for
her
that.
defense.
Yeah.
And he gains a reputation pretty quickly as quite a gunslinger.
He is asked to be a deputy later in these stories, and
there's a certain realism. I mean, there's a certain realism about Verrill Bond's artwork. Like this guy's walking down the stairs, and it almost looks like it was copied from a photograph or something. But of course, it wasn't. Verrill draws a lot of times he draws like slim, tall characters like that, and he's super good at it.
That's exactly what Clay Hitchens is supposed to be, slim and tall. But here's here's another view here from the back. That's what you call being a director. You know, you're the director when you're drawing a comic.
Absolutely.
And you're the guy that has to get the camera shots, and that's a real talent in itself. Trying to do that when you're telling a real. You can fool around like I do with comical stuff and do whatever you want. When you're trying to draw a real story, you got to think about all of that.
Look at the faces on these. Look at her. She's drinking the tea or coffee, and the character in that face.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just like her soul. You can like feel, you know, and her soul is right there for you to see. You can see there's a real human being with real feelings, and I mean that's the way it looks.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a drawing by one excellent artist. And,
here's actually I was referring to. Here's the sheriff. And you can see Clay grabbed a poster deputy wanted, and he's talking to the sheriff.
Yep.
So, and then go ahead.
There's another poster, just so you know, there's a wanted poster in here.
Yeah.
Wanted alive, a Smiley Keeter. Does that look like somebody you might recognize?
I forgot that was in there. Oh, yeah. Smiley Keeter without the mustache.
I forgot it too when I got to that point. I was reading it, I cracked up.
How did he draw it without the mustache?
Right. And those are my old glasses.
That you'll be reviewing it without the mustache. Very, very good. Very good. Very good.
Clairvoyant.
Holt. Yeah.
Verlbon and Jim
Holtbon. Pretty perceptive. And here is coming up the next story, if I can show it to you. I can't do it. I cannot do it.
Baptism of Fire. The next story.
Baptism of Fire.
And this will not be a reprint. This is going to be a new story.
Yeah, this will be brand new.
So we'll definitely be looking forward to that.
Yeah. So we were anxious to see Clay Hitchens in his own book, and we finally got it. And now we need a new story, which will be coming up soon, I'm sure.
Okay. There's one other thing I wanted to comment on about Verl's artwork. I'm just trying to find a good page.
They're all good.
Maybe not that page. Yeah, every page is great, but I'm looking for something in particular, see how fast I can find it.
Okay.
It's got to be here. It's got to be here. Come on, the clock is running. Well, the early part takes place in a saloon. Okay, there's other pictures, but he draws a very realistic horse.
Oh yeah.
Horses aren't that easy to draw.
No, that's another thing that's very hard about doing a Western, trying to draw a horse. You're right.
So he does that, and there we go. A cowboy's best friend is his horse, of course. Of course.
Horse, of course.
Horse is a horse, of course. Remember that?
Yes.
That was Mr. Ed theme. Anybody under 50 out there know who Mr. Ed was? Let us know when you vote on the beard and the mustache. Put that in there too.
Yeah. That's important. Well, we've got our good friend Steve Willis up next.
We always say Steve for last.
Cranium Frenzy 20 he sent.
Yeah.
And he said this was going to be a different type Cranium Frenzy, and he was right. This is very different. This is what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Steve lives in Washington State, and basically that's what this is about. And I like one thing he did here. He said it rains in Washington all the time. Rain, rain, rain. And in fact, he says, even our tallest mountain is called Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier. So, rain, rain, rain.
There we go. Need to get more light in this camera. Next time I'm going to move my camera to the other side because this looks kind of dark. It's a dark page anyway. But it's like it's rather autobiographical. He talks about Washington State when he was growing up and
a kid's TV program that he used to watch, J.P. Patches.
J.P. Patches.
He does a little story about that. I had a little kids program that I watched when I was a kid also in Chicago. So I could relate to that story.
I used to watch the Capo Hap show when I lived in North Carolina. And he was a clown that wore like an English Bobby uniform, but he was a clown. And he showed cartoons, and he would have the kids up in the bleachers. You know, when he used to have the kids up in the bleachers?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, I was one of those kids.
No kidding.
Yeah, a friend of mine, his mom took me along for the ride when she took her kids to be on the show. So we were on the show. I was on the show.
That's
I was
great.
like 7 years old, right?
Yeah.
I was sitting up there in the bleachers. I remember because they gave us hot dogs, and there was a certain brand of hot dogs that had a little bit of honey in them. And I forgot what, but had a little bit of honey. They gave us these hot dogs and Cokes, and we're sitting in the bleachers, and the show was going on, and I finished my hot dog. This is the truth. And he's standing there, and he's talking to the camera, and he was doing a commercial for the hot dogs. And I got up, and I walked over to him on live TV, and I said, "You got any more hot dogs?"
Oh my gosh! Did they carry you out of there?
He said, no, son, I'm sorry. You know, he said, and he looked at the camera and he said, "And folks, that just goes to show you how good they are."
They are, yeah. I was
True
in
story.
Chicago. I grew up in Chicago, and I had a guy. His name was Uncle Johnny Coons, and he came on around noontime. And he showed old, I guess, Laurel and Hardy movies and Abbott and Costello. But he was our guy, so everybody had one, I think.
Right. Those were the days.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you see a clown on TV, he's an axe murderer, you know.
Yeah. Uncle Johnny Coons wasn't dressed up like a clown, but he did have a derby hat on. And I think a bow tie.
Well, those were
so
the
anyway,
days.
there's all kinds of stories in here about Washington State. Here's D.B. Cooper, if you remember who that was.
Right.
The hijacker that
got away.
Jumped out of the plane, and he gives his theory on what happened to that guy.
Yeah.
So,
most people don't think he survived that plane, that leap out of the plane. He had a parachute, but there was a lot of forest below, and a lot of dangers. So.
But this is so different. He still has his humor and everything in here. I mean, you know, Steve Willis humor. But it's very different because each story has to do with Washington State, where he lives. And it's just really a neat issue to have. I think if you're a Steve Willis fan, you got to have this one.
Yeah, the humor is much more subdued than
but very good.
Other stuff.
Of course, Steve, he always sends a bunch of stuff along with that. So I got this. I just wanted to show that. This is Morty Comics 6673. A test to ingest the nest of the guest behest with zest.
Now that's the Steve Willis we're used to, right
there. You go.
I mean,
yeah, that's Steve Willis. Like, it was a firestorm of toothbrushes right there. And if you've ever been in a firestorm of toothbrushes, you know what that's like. But the coolest thing ever that he sent, and I don't imagine you got this, Steve, but I got this envelope, which is Morty Comics 6718. And this envelope, if you look here, is for Bob Ferguson for Governor, Exploratory Committee. Okay? For Governor of Washington. And inside here, in the envelope, is a matchbook. It came inside. And inside the matchbook is a comic. A Morty comic that opens up, and you can read the whole Morty comic right there.
Well, I'll be darned. How creative is that?
Yeah. Who thinks of that? I suggest, well, this is an original, so I don't know if there's another one like it. But this is an original.
Wow.
So maybe he just sent me the one that he made. I don't know, but you never know what Steve Willis is going to do. One of the top small press artists out there and been doing it a long time.
Here's in the book, Mount St. Helens. We all remember when that
right.
When that erupted. There was a guy named Harry Truman, not the president, but a Washington
president. Doesn't
resident.
have the S. Doesn't have the S in the middle.
Right. So he lived up in the mountains. Well, he lived, by Mount St. Helens, and he refused to leave, despite and this is true. It's a true story. I remember seeing this on the news. You couldn't pull me out with a mule team. That mountain's part of Truman, and Truman's part of the mountain. Well, he died in the eruption. He wouldn't leave home. That was his home.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That this is rather more serious than
a little more, but a lot of humor.
A lot of humor in here.
He also always sends me. He has a cat, so he has a lot of boxes of cat food, and he always draws something on the back of the cat food. And here is, why is Ross Perot's voice on your answering machine?
Anybody remember Ross Perot?
I'm sure they do. Somebody does.
He ran for president as an independent, and he almost won, but something came up. People started to think he was a little creepy or something because he was saying that he was being spied upon and all this. But I actually saw him in person, and I do a pretty good Ross Perot impersonation if you want to hear it.
Yeah, I don't know how many people would remember, but
who's going to remember? If you remember Ross Perot,
I do.
Let's call a spade a spade. That was it. That was my Ross Perot.
There you go. That's exactly why he did not win the presidency.
I didn't win, but I sure did run hard. Well,
he was about this big, Ross Perot.
I saw him in person.
Yeah.
He spoke at
little guy.
After he lost the election, 6 months later, he spoke at a college near here in downtown Orlando. And I actually went with my wife at the time. We went to see him. And he was still Ross Perot. He was still talking about cleaning up Washington and all. Well, he never did.
No.
So we'll see if that ever happens.
Okay, well, I think we've done it, buddy.
We did good.
Yeah, we did.
I think. Didn't we?
I think we did. I don't know what time it is, but that's the ultimate test.
I don't know how long this video is, but
I don't know how long it is, but we better end it anyway.
Oh, it's 52 and a half minutes, so this is perfect.
Perfect ending time.
Yeah.
All right. So, you hit the end button, and we will end it.
Okay, I'm going to do this. We're doing this differently this time because we're recording it from my computer instead of Larned's computer because he's been having internet problems.
Yeah.
But
so it's a little different.
But what can I say? Adios. Have a great day.
We'll see you. Well, welcome to episode 52 of Talking Small Press Comics with Steve Peter.
Hi.
And me, Larned Justin. And today is a very special show. With us today is the creator of The Improbable Girl and The Wonder Kitty, Steve Carrales. And welcome to the show, Steve.
I'm Steve. He's Joe.
He's Joe.
Joe Ely Carrales.
Down there. And Joe's over there. So it's Joe Carrales.
I got a bunch of them here.
There you go. Look at all those. Look at all those.
Some of these are UFO zines. Right in the middle there, somewhere in the middle, there's a UFO symbol where Joe hopped on board the United Pansy Organization.
I see the UFO.
Yeah. But
my friend Steve, ever the huckster for UFOs.
Yeah. Well, we got a bunch of questions for you, Joe.
All right.
All kinds of questions. I hope you're ready.
You got questions, I got answers.
All right. You want me to go? You want me to go first, Steve?
You can if you want.
All right. Here's one. I got to read these because I can't remember them. You said that around 1988 you discovered that you could make comics. How did you discover that? How did that happen?
it's kind of a long story. It's going to be a lot of long stories here.
That's okay. We know, Joe. We know they're going to be long.
Go back to the days of yesteryear.
Right.
Well, we will kind of go back. When I was around that age, in the late 80s, I was around 9, 10 years old or so. And my grandparents had a ranch out 5 miles west of town, and we would go there and kind of look through all the stuff. My grandpa, he had been a TV repairman, and he had been sort of like a junk man. Actually, he was the guru of the city dump. So we had all this stuff there, cool stuff, weird stuff, old radios, vacuum tubes, all kinds of great stuff. But I found my father's schoolwork. You know, I guess you graduate from school, you throw your satchel there, and so I opened it up and I found some old, I guess they're kind of like folders and notebooks, kind of manila folders, very, very brown, very old school, very 60s, 70s. And I started going through them, and I noticed something in there called the People's Journal. And they were all kind of out of order, right? So I put them in order, and I found out what the People's Journal was. The People's Journal was an assignment that his teacher, some English teacher, had given them, where they're supposed to write a journal entry at the beginning of every class. And as a sort of rejection of that, he had created what he called the People's Journal. It's like this revolutionary, I'm not going to do this. And so
this precedes this, right? The New People's Journal.
The New People's
he
Journal
kept the name.
continues the tradition of the original People's Journal. So the original entries were like, this is a stupid assignment. I don't know what this, Claude wants us to do that and all this other stuff. But then eventually it started to be like poems and stuff. And then all of a sudden, like on the 5th or 6th page, it suddenly became like drawings. We started drawing pictures of his associates. He started drawing pictures of school activities, and then had little kind of did you know that this, and that, like Ripley's Believe It or Not sort of things. He'd make fun of his friends. The Sasquatch lives still. Here he is. And that kind of stuff. Little drawings, and a lot of early, like he was a fan of Marvel, so you'd have like Hercules and and all that stuff all around there. And I was all, this is cool stuff, and I would ask him about it, and he would never let on, and that's sort of a thing. My dad never like associated with me when it came to like making comics, or he would draw stuff for me, and he drew this like Vince Lombardi, Super Bowl trophy stuff and all this stuff, and it was real great, but he never really like came out for it. And I started to draw comics. I said, what, I want to do that. I want to be like my dad. Your dad was before his time. I mean, he would have fit right in.
Yeah, that's really back there a ways.
Yes, don't think that anything other than the fact that it should be him sitting here. He would love you guys. That becomes a sort of bittersweet part of it, because there's a bit of the story there, and we'll get to that as we go. But so I decided that I was going to be like my dad, and I was going to lampoon my friends and all this, and I was going to make them comic books. So we'd be at school, in the 5th, 6th grade, and they're drawing all this Lowrider magazine stuff, and and I said, no, I can draw better. I can draw better than that. I feel like this gangster, because they were drawing the Lowrider symbol. It's a guy with a hat and a little beard. So I'll draw a monster. But I drew like this, 1920 style thing, and they go, oh, that's pretty good. And at the time, those TV shows like G.I. Joe had become a TV show, and the Transformers and all that. And so I like drawing like army stuff. So I said, I'm gonna make this like series, and I go, you guys, I'm gonna make some comic books. I'll give one to you, my friend Albert, and then I'll make a couple of others in case any of you other guys want. So I would do 3 at the same time, because I didn't have a copy.
When you draw them all, you just draw them.
Yeah, every panel it was 3.
The same thing 3 times.
My grandpa was a janitor. Other grandpa was a janitor at the school. I come from junk people. My grandpa was a custodian over at high school, and every now and then he'd bring a ream of 8.5 by 11 paper for some copy machine. Well, we never got the copy machine, but I would have the 3 laid out.
There you go. Yeah, you got the paper.
So, okay, we're going to draw this, and this. And so I would give these out. And I was like, you know what, I can make comics. This would be cool. And this was when, I didn't know very much about it. Now, we did have some comics. We always had, like, gold key comics left over from the last generation, you know, the Star Trek comics. Star Trek comics became, like, a big deal. But I got some of them here. I'll show you some of the stuff. And we did have some of the other stuff, but we never really, we had some superhero stuff. It was kind of all old. But the thing that really was there were Mad magazines and Crash magazines. And so I kind of got into that, and I was like, okay, this is all pretty cool. You know, they're doing movies, and they're drawing people that look like the actual people.
I think that influenced a lot of us. Mad magazine and Crack magazine and those things.
Yeah, everything from Spy vs. Spy to you know, the more Drucker's movie parodies and satires and all that. I mean, I really kind of went into that. But so I created. See, you're a kid, and you do strange things as a kid, right? So
we're still doing strange things as adults.
Yeah,
but
some people would say that. Yeah.
And so of the strange things I did, I'm going to make my own like team, right? Like the G.I. Joe has their team. We used to watch like The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and all this other stuff that would come out, you know, on Saturdays and Sundays. And I'm gonna make a team like that, but I need to give it a name. So I said, I know that there's such a thing as the FBI, but that's been done to death. So I'm gonna call it the FDI, Federal Detectives and Inspectors. But it was really like a military organization, and so that would be what the comics were about. And so they would be, you know, this was heavily influenced by the 1980s G.I. Joe show, where they had like these 5-part long, week-long, 30 minutes a day installments. And so, you know what, I like that. On Monday they're doing this, on Tuesday, by Wednesday, you know, they're losing, and then on Thursday they turn the tide, and Friday they just so I started writing stories like that. One of them was called Lost on the Trap Planet, and one of them was called The Druid's Secret, and they were kind of like epic things. Now, the other thing that I was doing was I was pretending that people were reading these, like I had readership. Gotta fake it to be amazing.
Right.
That's the same readership I have. Pretend readership. Yeah. Same thing.
I did have one reader, Albert Rios, who will probably see this. He was like very interested in all this stuff, and he kept the only surviving element from that time, which is
there it is.
I've seen that cover. I've seen that cover because you sent me a photocopy. I think it appeared in the UFO newsletter not too long ago.
I appreciate it. I reference this a lot because this is the only thing that survives. Now, I made I don't know how many comics, but they didn't survive the decade. Yeah. And so, but what this was a zine before I knew what a zine was.
Yeah.
Because it has, for example, it has scenes from the comics in there. And it has some caption, you know, like and it has like, we found the enemy island or something like that, as if people had read these comics and this was like some sort of annual and who's who.
Unbelievable. That's very cool.
So like here is the original Druid's Secret was kind of like done. It was actually much longer, but these are just like key scenes from it.
And you did these like elementary school or high school?
This was already heading towards middle school.
Middle school?
That particular stuff. I was in fifth.
But did you ever see small press comics? Did you know that other people were doing that?
I did not. See, the thing was, over here in South Texas, you kind of live in isolation. In fact, it wasn't until very recently that I discovered small press and independent.
That's what I was wondering.
And
that was one of the things I was wondering.
I fell in love with it because I'll kind of go over into like the part with my dad. So what I didn't know, my dad passed away in about 2014 on June 6th. And I didn't realize that as a young man, he had an ambition to become a comic book artist. He was an excellent artist. Like I said, he could do the Kirby stuff. He had his own stuff. And apparently, my grandfather, and this was kind of odd also, because my grandfather supported these ambitions. All his other brothers had to go out and work in the fields, and my dad got to stay inside the house and draw, because my grandfather identified his talent. You know, some of us became musicians, some of us became artists.
There's one of those in every family. But like in my family, and I had we had a big family, so I had brothers and sisters. They were all into sports, and well, this was back in those days. So my sisters were like cheerleaders and stuff like that, you know. But just so you know, other people were doing the same thing. They didn't know about small press. They didn't. I'll just show you this real quick. Very quickly, because this is your interview. This is an old composition book that I have from the late '60s, and I was doing like monster magazines, back in the days with pencils.
How old were you?
Oh man, like when I did this, gosh, I was probably like, maybe 10 years old or something.
Oh my gosh!
10 or 11. I was copying pictures from famous monsters of Filmland magazine.
Oh my gosh.
We all had the same idea.
Yeah, those of us that do this were kindred spirits, doing the same. My friend Ken Bailey, who we associate with on your program all the time, I was talking to him, and he had basically the same thing, about 15 years before me, and and it's the same sort of thing. But like I'm saying with my dad, he had aspirations to be this, and he had the family support.
But yeah, you're lucky you had that kind of familial support. Not everybody gets that. That's really special.
So to me, that he had some talent that he's going places. But that kind of came to an end, and I didn't know any of this. I knew my dad drew, and he drew, like I said, all these football players, and he would draw little army soldiers, and, of course, Hercules and Thor and the Submariner and all these other people, right? He's seeing Marvel stuff, mostly Marvel. But I didn't know that he had aspired to be that until after he had passed away, and my uncle comes up and starts telling a story. Yeah. He comes up and he says, "Oh, I remember the day, your dad had sent off a letter to Marvel and a letter to someplace else, and he received a notice from that basically told him to, saw it off, like, you traced this, you photocopied this and re-inked it. How dare you pull the wool over our eyes?"
Oh no!
And according to my uncle, it messed him up to where he just threw all his stuff. And
that would do it.
The dream was shattered. Now, I didn't know any of this, and I just find it ironic. All my life as a teacher, I've always tried to encourage everybody.
Yes.
You want to go out and be an athlete, you go out and be the best one you can.
You want to go out
and draw, I'm going to help you do it. But to find out after the fact that my father had these aspirations, we can't have regrets about regrettable things, because had he gone and be here, the history would have taken a different thing. But what has to happen is, I kind of realized, I was angry for a bit, but then I was like, you know what, there's no revenge or vengeance here. It needs to be justice. The world has to be corrected. So,
this is your dad right here, isn't it?
My dad right there.
Oh my gosh, okay.
In the first issue of
okay, I didn't remember that was in there.
I just happened to come across it.
You did,
through these great books,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so, so his dream sort of ended, and I had always wondered about that, because as I continued doing this, I had this room right here was an extra bedroom that for the longest time was an unfinished room. My father bought this house when it was kind of a hovel. When he first started working, and then he built it up into a much grander house. He ended up working in the oil company. So after that, he just didn't do anything with the art, anything official. And so he went into the petrochemical industry. He worked for ExxonMobil. And instead of most of the other people that went into petrochemicals bought fancy houses and all, they said, "No, I'm going to buy a small house and sort of build it up." And then eventually he lived out what he wanted to do, because he built a house at the ranch over there, and then he kind of passed this one on, kind of like an empire building thing. And so I would, in this room, sitting over there in an old desk, one of those old school desks with a little inkwell and everything, because my grandfather was a custodian, and he saved the best looking one, and we had it there. I would draw, and he would come and he would pass by, and he would look, and they never really stopped. And I would show him the stuff that I was doing, and he never kind of showed.
Never said anything.
Interest. Well, he showed kind of interest. He was kind of interested in it, but all that became context. I always thought that he was like too busy to deal with it, or he was more interested in doing something else. But the contextualization of that entire thing, the context had completely changed when I found out this story. I mean, he wanted to do this. Somebody sent him this letter. Yeah, he just threw all his stuff, and from one day to the next, he was working out there in the fields with us, and it embittered him too.
Yeah, too bad.
So when I was doing it, he was encouraging, but he kept some distance from it.
But nonetheless, he was still a very definite influence on you. And perhaps you might not be doing what you're doing now if it's not for him.
Yeah.
My brother also does some artwork based on that.
Yeah.
And my father got sick. My brother went to but my father was already deteriorating from the cancers that were destroying him, and so he didn't get to. But I did manage to find some of that, and in the 10th issue of this series that I'm doing now, the Improbable Girl and the Wonder Kitty, I'm going to focus the People's Journal on those drawings. I've put many of them in there because I promised myself when I get to 10 issues, that 10th issue is gonna be the one, because that'll be like a bit of a milestone, and we'll go into that. But that was just something that's what triggered this. That happened. I found out about that, and then I said, you know what? This needs to be corrected. I have the same name as my father, basically, and if I'm not going to make it big. I know that. I mean, but I'm going to make it.
You can make it small press.
It's going to happen. There is a.
All right, Steve got to ask you another question.
All right.
We got to move on a little bit.
Well, I mean, we're talking about his beginnings and everything, so we were talking about his influences, and his dad is an influence.
Right.
You know, the thing is, I wrote all this stuff down, but I didn't organize it, so it's all haphazard. It's all over the place.
All right.
Which is okay, because I know the story.
Yeah.
But Larned, in fact, this is one of Larned's questions. Were you influenced? What other cartoonists, what other artists influenced your work? Larned mentions he was influenced by Wally Wood and Will Elder.
Yeah, Will Elder and Wally Wood from Mad Magazine.
Well, you mentioned Mad Magazine.
Yeah.
Those are those same influences.
He mentioned Mad, and I perked right up because that's what I.
Oh yes, in the 80s.
Yep.
We would go
mine was before that, but
I had some of those too. Some of the older ones. I had one that had The Godfather in it, and so that one was obviously and they were all yellowed. Of course, I wasn't an historian then, so I didn't like preserve as I should have. Those things should be well preserved now, but they aren't.
So what was your actual cartoonist? Not your, I know your dad, but after that, who did you pattern yourself after?
I really liked the work that Jack Kirby did with his the way like that,
I hate to say this. I never heard of Jack Kirby when I had no idea who Jack Kirby was.
He was my hero.
I know. I had no clue.
Absolutely.
I had no idea.
Incorporate the Kirby crackle into some of the new stories, and with little dots and the. I say, my dad used to do that also, but in terms, so Jack Kirby was one of the mainline comic books, but most of them Mad Magazine artists like Al Jaffe. He would do those snappy answers to stupid questions.
Yeah.
And I got to do this. This is going to turn me into some kind of schlemiel or something. But I'm going to learn how to do that.
So that's
dialogue. Then of course the Mort Drucker film parodies. I never saw a lot of. I didn't see any of the films that would come out in the magazines until after. So I remember specifically An Officer and a Gentleman. And I read the Mad Magazine version, and it's parody and it's making fun of it. And then I saw the movie, and I was like, why am I even watching this? I've already seen this. I know that that Louis Gossett Jr. and Richard Gere and all this. This is and so a lot of that. Of course, Sergio Aragonés is another.
Oh my gosh, he's a god.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of these people had amazing longevity. Also, I think we just.
He's still around. He's still drawing.
And so I saw a lot of those things, but I wasn't really actively looking for comic book influences until maybe like the last 5 years. So I know Dan DeCarlo is another one that because I used to have the old Archie's digests and comic books, and so you see a lot of that in probably. I love
the old Archie comic, the old Archie comics.
Yes,
they totally blew it later, but
are reminiscent of it. But the ones that were probably from the 60s and 70s and the early 80s, and then of course I'd go down to the HEB, which is our grocery store, and I pick up some of them, and I got them somewhere here. Yeah. But I kind of like looked at that as a bit of an influence. But as I said, the influences that are having the most effect right now are the small press guys. I'm forever grateful, Steve, that you allowed me to join the UFO. Because I have...
An absolute honor to have you on board. Seriously.
I appreciate that. I have gained such a insight into so many things. I mean, just in reviewing, and I said I sent you very lengthy, maybe a lot of series of reviews over some of the stuff, but there's such a variety, diversity of creators and people doing all kinds of stuff, action. There's surrealism.
That's what's so great about small press. It's not just superheroes. It can be slice of life. It can be all kinds of stuff. And that's what I like about it.
There's a lot.
I was going to ask. Go ahead. I was going to ask him.
sometimes we talk over each other.
Yeah.
And I just go over.
Yeah, and I just dominate.
Yeah.
I gotta ask this. This is I gotta know the answer to this. How did you come up with the idea of two girls who work in a mailroom and become superheroes? I gotta know how you come up with that.
Well, it's actually more true to life than you would think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So everything you see in the comic book is a weird distortion of reality, of something that has occurred in my life that I'm just exaggerating to a huge point. None of the characters are actually based on anybody real. They're based on like amalgamations of different people, things that have happened. So what happens is I worked at a middle school for 17 years, and for most of that time it didn't have a school paper. And then one day a kid in class asked, "Sir, can we have a school newspaper?" And I said, "All right, I'll back that. If you guys write stories and do all this other stuff, if I have to write it all by myself, But if you guys are going to contribute to it, I'm more than happy to be the sponsor. I'll stay after school in the computer lab with you guys. You can turn in your stories." And that was the time of floppy disks and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And we've updated technologies twice since then. And so they said, sure, we want to do this. And so, what do you want to call it? Now, let's call it the Daily Brainline. I was like, stop, Daily. Daily,
please.
Yeah. Are you cracked? And so I go, it's going to be called the Weekly, Brahma, and we're going to have the whole week, and there's like football games to cover and all that stuff. And so that went for a while, and it was news and stuff, and the kids really liked it. They liked seeing their names in the newspaper and all that. And then one of them said, "Sir, can we have political cartoons in it?" And I was like, "Oh my God, political cartoons." You got the 2016 election coming up here. And got Donald Trump and all this other stuff. Y'all want to make political cartoons? They're trying to get me fired. And so I say, you know what? Go ahead and try it. The First Amendment is the cornerstone of my understanding. So they did, and they brought me some comics, but they weren't really comics. They just went and got some internet clip art and added some words to it. Very similar to that one piece that y'all reviewed where they took the 1930s comic and changed the captions.
Yeah, that detective comic. Yeah.
With all kinds of stuff. And I was like, guys, you can't really do this is like copyright issues.
Copyright, yeah.
I tell you what, you bring me one of these and I'll draw up something. And so they had actually gone to And they went to a Yiddish language newspaper and found a picture of the gossiping Yenta. And they wanted to use that for the gossip columnist. And they were going to have her say like something, and I go, no, you can't do that. That's obviously for whatever newspaper this is. Let me draw you a version of that. And that became the Lola character. And so then everybody, the person doing the gossip column, kind of like took that as their mantle. And then somebody was doing the sports wanted to have their own character, and somebody doing the news wanted to have their own. So now we had like every page of the paper had its own like mascot, because they didn't want to use their real names. So they created like Pegs Knows a Lot and Dr. Lola and all this stuff. And so it's coming along great, right? And then some kids come up to me in the cafeteria. I'm trying to get my plate. I'm trying to get out of there, trying to go eat. I got 30 minutes to eat. What are these kids thinking? And they come, sir, can we have some story comic books in the newspaper? And I go, story comic books? Yeah, like we read in, get this, in English class how when Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, he published it like a chapter at a time in a journal or something.
This is true.
And people went through there and they, they would, it was like a weekly thing. You could do like a different scene. And I was all like, I'm trying to eat here. There's not enough time in the day for this kind of stuff. So I went home and I started thinking about it. Let's try it out. So we started making like more. The political cartoons began to be like 3-panelers, and then they said, "Well, sir, let's do some like superheroes. No, let's do spies. No, let's do like army kind of stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, well, so." I drew a picture of. I go, well, boys have been done to death. Like you got the like Katzenjammer kids and the Hardy Boys and all that. Let's do something different. Let's do girls. So I drew a picture of 2 girls, kind of on the board, and they had that. What do you call it? The only hairstyle I knew how to really draw was that Hillary Clinton one when she had the bangs and had the. And so I drew these 2 girls that had this hairstyle, bangs in the front, kind of shoulder length with a headband on the top. And they were all, sir, nobody dresses like that. And I'm like, okay, well, what are we going to do? So we got the yearbook, and 2 of the girls that worked on the staff there, so why don't you use my haircut? And then so it was a girl with a haircut where kind of one dangled over one eye all the time. And then the other one had a haircut with a ponytail, like a front ponytail, kind of like parted on this side that came into a ponytail. And I go, all right, so this was on dry erase marker, so I erased the hairstyles, and I kind of put that in there.
But but you were a huge influence on these kids. You're bringing them into the worlds of comics. But I gather at some point you must have taken over more and more and did your own comics, because it wasn't just them. You were doing comics too. Well,
what happens is, the Weekly Brahma had my like page and a half, and then it had all their comics. And so I was just doing it to show them how it was done, right?
Right.
Well, I did the first one, and it was a comic book about the 2 girls, and it was not really a narrative. It was kind of like a one-pager, where they're there fighting this gigantic robot, and the robot's destroying the place and pummeling them, and they're running around, and one of them runs and trips over a cable and it's the cable to the robot, and the robot falls, right? And they take the scientist who made it away, and it's over. And I'm adapting that into one of those Hostess style cartoons, by the way.
But was that the beginning of Marie Selinsky and the Wonder Kitty? Is that where it began?
That was the beginning?
It was called Mighty Courageous and the Wonder Kitty. They like the sound of Wonder Kitty. They want to call it Wonder Cat, but I'm sure there was already something like that. Yeah. The Wonder Kitty sounded good, but the first part of it...
When did you decide to make it your own comic book completely?
Well, immediately after that, because what happens is that story ran, right? And 5 different occasions that week, including the principal, they said, who the heck are these characters? Started the story in the middle of it. Who are they? What's their story?
Yeah.
And I was all like, now I gotta
better come up with one, huh?
You know what? They wanted a story, narrative, so a serial. So we'll start with this. We'll start, and there'll be kids. At first, it was contemporary. It was taking place at that time, and they were 20-year-old girls because I didn't want to be drawing, little kids. It wasn't, and it wouldn't make sense to have middle school kids working at a newspaper.
No.
So I aged up the characters and I aged up all the rest of the staff. So all those mascots became like and you can see it in the origin stories. they became the staff of the paper.
Got it right here.
Yeah,
this is the first issue.
There's a scene in there where they're all sitting at a table. And all those, one of them is the news person. There was a financial news editor. There was a weather person. And so all those people, I got rid of the original names they had, and I gave them more believable names. If Emmett Nesbitt is a believable name, or Peggy O'Shea, and all this other stuff. So I updated those people and said, well, what is these girls' story? So I said, you know what? If these girls are this age, that means that when they started getting into this work, it was during the Great Recession. They're probably having trouble getting jobs, and so it became that. And they want to be journalists, because the whole idea of this is journalism. So they want to be journalists, but life isn't working out in their favor, and so they end up working as car hops, and they throw stuff all over the one person, and she gets a job. And
well, I see here they're getting fired. This is the first issue. You're fired. They couldn't keep a steady job.
Originally, that was a 3-page spread, because that was an entire. I condensed it down because
I'm still fascinated on how you got it into the comic book. Then, how did you know what to do? How did you talk to people to figure out how to put a comic book together and who to have print it and all that?
Whenever I encounter a student, because we do draw notes, like today we did like agriculture and industry, and I went up there and drew like a barn for industry, and and they said, Mr. I can't draw. My response to that is, do it anyway. And so I didn't know how to make a comic book. I didn't know the first anybody. Yeah. They told me about Yeet, and I submitted it to Yeet. I had to condense it down. That's why I'm reworking the origin story, by the way. I'm reestablishing all the stuff I kind of threw out of it to make it a more full-length story by my standards. And then I say, you know what, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I went up there and I looked into it, the comic, Wellspring, Gecko Publishing, and all that. I figured out what you had to do. I had limited resources. I have a very old Photoshop.
Comics Wellspring here.
I have a very old Photoshop, and I have Microsoft Publisher. And so that's why my lettering is limited, because the text boxes that I'm using are the ones that are embedded in Microsoft Publisher. What I need to do, and people are trying to show me new stuff, but it'd be too jarring to just switch over right away. I got to wait to the beginning of a story arc to change the style of it. I can't change it in the middle, because then it isn't consistent. So you draw them by hand. Then you scan them into a computer, is that right? I'd like to say that I scanned them. I know that I have a scanner, but I used to take a picture of the line art with my phone. Oh my gosh, no kidding. Yeah, and then I bring it over. That's what I like to find out. You did it with your phone. Yeah, I bring it over to the Photoshop, and I mess with the contrast and the resolution, not the resolution, the contrast and the, what's the other thing? The brightness and all that, until the lines get where I need them to be. Then I animate them, color them, add other stuff. And I should also point out that a lot of them are done in elements. So it's like animation. There's a background and then like color forms. There's layers. It's layered, right? It's layered. And you can kind of manipulate them to a certain degree. That way, because I had drawn this really elaborate scene, and then somebody around here knocked over my an ink well that I had. Who could have done that? Like for hours down the drain. And I had drawn all the people and everything, and it was so beautiful. I said, you know what, we're not going to do that. If we're going to lose something, we're going to lose percentages of it, not the whole thing. So that's kind of where that ended up. And so I just decided, you know what, this has to be done. You know, my father had this. I'm going to continue it. I'm going to take up where he left off, and there will be at least one Joe Ely Carrales out there who did this, and he rides with me. And I was fortunate enough, music-wise, to have played music with him and my grandfather and so forth. But I wasn't made privy to that artistic section of his life. And like I said, if he were around now, he would be here probably doing that, because I figured out how to do this. I can imagine myself going over to the ranch where he's at, you know, in spirit, where he would be in person, and saying, look what we can do, and out this stuff, together.
You've carried on a part of his legacy. You've taken your part of his legacy because you've taken on the artistic aspect and you've carried it further than he did. I did want to say that I was looking at this one, and it looks very simple. This was issue number 1, but by issue number 3, your artwork was getting more complicated.
Oh,
and there was a lot more background, a lot more detail. And some of the stuff is really beautiful, especially in full color.
Now remember that that initial one began some of the art is still the 2016 art that ran in that school paper.
Oh my gosh! No.
Wow.
Somebody said, "Well, Mike Jones will publish this in Heat."
Yeah.
And I go, "Well, but it's considerably lengthy." They said, "Well, when you get it down." So there wasn't any time. It was like the deadline. It's December. I want this out in February. The deadline is like December 17th. So there I'm consolidating stuff, moving stuff around. There's no time to clean up any of the images. So some of the stuff is kind of rougher than it ought to be. Some of it's like 5 or 6 years old, and it's not matching stylistically with the other stuff that I learned how to do.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like I said, I'm going back now and redoing. I'm going to redo the kind of director's cut, but I'm going to release the first 3 as the first 4 that didn't see UFOs.
Now, how did you meet Ken Bailey? Because, in my opinion, your style and Ken Bailey's style are very close.
They're very similar. Mm-hmm.
Very, very similar. How did that all work out? That's interesting.
That is an interesting point. Because I was talking before we came on, Larned and I, Steve, about how exactly did I learn? How exactly did I meet you guys? Because you always reach the point where you're coming out in my publication,
yeah, right.
and it's just sort of a thing that comes on. Now, when I decided that when I discovered small press comics, let me backtrack a bit there, because I was all like, okay, my dad did this. I haven't bought comic books in the longest time. I'm gonna go see what Marvel and DC has. But before I went to the comic book stores around here, because I wanted the physical feel, I didn't want to wait, for subscriptions and whatnot. I didn't even know how it works these days. Right. I said, let me look online and see what's available. Well, I found several people. I found Fish Lee, who does Life in the Green Zone. I found all these other people that were publishing things. That's where that Torch stuff, the Dolphin Brothers and all that, I saw that stuff online, and I saw some of the stuff that the UFO people were putting out, and I was like, oh my God, there is a literal treasure trove of stuff going on here.
Yeah. I have to keep adjusting this light. It's just not right. Yeah, there you go. And I looked radioactive before. That's a little better.
But yeah. Like the Phantom of the Opera.
I know.
Wow. Yeah. So one of the characters that I ran into was the Mighty Energy Girl. And I saw pictures of it, and I was all like, oh, that's an interesting style. And then I started kind of like reading up about it. And then, like so many things, I just sent him a message. Said, hey, I really enjoy the comic samples that you have. I went and found him on Facebook, started communicating with him. Discovered that we had like some kindred associations. And one day, I decided to draw a picture of Marty and Nico with the Mighty Energy Girl, and I sent it to him. And then he reciprocated. And then I said, you know what? We ought to collaborate on something. And so I said, you know what? Why don't we do the Mighty Energy Girl meets Marty Talinsky and the Wonder Kitty, now called Improbable Girl and the Wonder Kitty. I said, how's it going to fix? So we would talk every night, brainstorming. Okay, well, how would they meet? Are they in the same universe? Are they going to have to come through like a portal and all this stuff? I said, no, let's just make it simple. They exist in the same world. The only thing is the time displaced them. This is happening in 2011 or 2010, 2009, that whole era. So he had to like go back to what Energy Girl's design was in those days. So I wrote and drew a 10-page story of Marty and Nico have just finished
But did he change his drawing style to kind of look like, or was he always? No, this is what I can't figure out. His drawing style and your drawing style are very similar. It's just an accident.
Yeah, that
didn't change. Nobody changed anything to match the other guy.
In fact,
that is amazing to me.
What happens is, like for example, if I draw the Mighty Energy Girl, look at his style, but I draw her to fit.
You don't have to change much.
And when he draws Marty and Nico, do I have?
Yeah, I mean, he's got the same feel to it already.
Yeah, you fit your art styles fit together very well.
Yeah.
I better not. I had a copy of because he sent me the concept of Cat to the Future, but he draws. He goes out of his way to make them look both like his style with his features and mine, and I try to do the same. And so the melding of it, the universes, they were similar, and they've meshed really well. So
you're not kidding. Yeah.
Story. I said, okay,
I find that fascinating.
let's work in the same lore. So the Mighty Energy and all her people exist in my universe, and my people exist in yours, and all we have to do is collaborate and talk about this, because you can borrow. He is carte blanche to open to a story of these girls anytime, but work with each other. And he said, well, he can't go and kill them, for example, or he can't alter them unless we talk about it. And I wouldn't. And the same thing. I borrowed some characters, and
I can understand that. Yeah.
And I run it by him. I go, this is what I'd like this character to do. If it's outside, I go, don't be coy. If it's outside of what they would do, tell me. I'll change it, because I want this to work. In other words,
perfect. It's a perfect collaboration.
I mean,
merging
you can't
of styles.
beat it.
I mean,
you can't beat it. I mean, I don't know how that happened. It's just amazing to me that you both draw similar style. And not exactly, but similar.
He really gets the character of them. He really gets the physical appearances and also their behaviors. Yeah. And I said, well, the whole idea of Cat's Meow and then Cat to the Future, which is it's a 3-part arc that takes place in his universe, is, and this goes back to what y'all sometimes say when you're reviewing mine. These girls don't know what they're doing. They're supposed to be superheroes. They don't know what
they haven't done any superhero stuff yet.
It's wacky because they're young. They're working in a mailroom. They're in the Air Force. They're officers in the Air Force. And they're budding superheroes, and they haven't explored the extent of their characters, of their powers just yet. But that's the thing, is that you're not getting in a hurry to tell the story. You're telling it one step at a time.
They're going to get there, and I'm glad Kent came aboard with that also, because the story arc of the heist, they don't do well there as superheroes. They're on the run.
Right.
They're having a horrible time of it. And then, so they know that, and even their commander, everybody knows they don't know what they're doing. And then they're over in the Air Force, having to do Air Force stuff. You can't fake that.
That makes it real. Though.
So they've been given commissions as captains in the Air Force, and captains are it takes like 5 or 6 years to even approach becoming a captain after officers training and all this. These girls, you're thrown in here. You're in the airport, so they don't know what they're doing. They're supposed to be journalists, and they're journalists, but they're working in the mailroom, and don't like them. They're like, who are these people? Why are they here?
And they've been through a lot in a short period of time. They've been through an inquisition where they were being accused of crimes they didn't commit.
Yeah, they went to a European adventure where they ended up reporting all these stories that people were upset about. So they're not making. And so Ken and I was like, you know what? That's the end. The Mighty Energy Girl is, and her Mary Oldsmobile character agent, and her organization, the Federal Department of Superhumanics. They're the first people to train these girls. So the Air Force will throw up their hands, and the General Carrales will say, you know what? This is beyond my mark here. I'm going to send there to a camp. And they go over there and they create even more havoc. I don't know, these girls seem to fall into all these situations. They don't ask for anything. They've asked for none of this. But
General Carrales, you have a lot of vivid characters in there, and you got the British guy, Percival, and he has kind of a crush on Marie, right?
Oh yeah.
But she kind of puts him off. But I'm just kind of, I don't know, the soap opera aspect is kind of intriguing. I want to see where this is going to go, you know. But
that also references my father and myself, because my father and my mother didn't like each other when they met. And then when my wife and I met, I had to ask her out 10 times before she finally said yes.
Oh, yeah.
How do you wash your hair? And so I said, let's explore some of that. Let's put some of that, because you often see these days characters meet and they fall in love instantly. Let's have some sort of tension. Zelensky is the sassy one, and this Percival guy is the epitome of arrogance when he begins. But the thing is, neither of them are actually like that. Those are kind of facades that they've developed around themselves. It's like Nico isn't really the spaz that you think it is. There's gonna be some story arcs where you're gonna see why she's the way she is, and they're gonna grow. They're not gonna.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because we've got to get to the point here where we're going to have to wrap it up, because people tell us we go too long. So I'm going to ask you one more thing, unless you got one more. You got one more thing, Steve? Go ahead, because I don't.
No, I think we can go a little bit longer though. Let's say 10 more minutes.
I'll let you. Yeah. And the question was just, what are your plans for the future? Do you plan to continue just the girls? Do you plan anything different? Those kind of questions.
There is a bunch of stuff that I have planned, and I was talking with some of my other creators, like Ken, Ryan Howitt, and Trish, and all those from Canada, and Don Simpson. I got like all these ideas. I want to go back and.
Don Simpson, I just want to give him a shout out.
Yeah.
Awesome cover.
Look at that cover.
Yeah, I love Don Simpson.
There's 2 more covers coming.
Two more covers coming.
Back there. We can. Y'all wanted to know about that. I'll explain that. But
just generally, what your plans are.
I've got 5 incarnations of stories that I want to do. I want to go back and tell the backstory, because this stuff happened in the 80s. Yeah. I want to go back and tell those stories. Okay. I want to continue the current storyline until they reach a point where it's no longer as it is, where they evolve. Then I'm going to switch over to it being more about them in a kind of total superhero context. And then I have this far distant story that's a space adventure that continues it on even further. Now that the girls, when they become old
astronauts,
and they become astronauts, and I take it, into like the 2060s. So that's that stuff. But I also want to publish other people's stuff. My friend Brian Amstetter, he has that Cheap Coffee Cup. He does online comics. I'd like to compile his book, print a few of them, get him started on that, show him how to do it, and then let it take off. I want to do that sort of thing. I also want to, throw some one-shots out there. I want to do more Yeats Presents stuff. I want to publish in Tetragrammaton Fragments, comic, not only the reviews, but kind of go in there.
We could use more comics in there.
Yes. I'm gonna, and what I want to know in terms of that is, if I put comics in there, do they need to be exclusive, or like previews that can be run as a full story later? Or maybe
you can do whatever you want. You can publish it there and then reprint it in your own wherever you like.
I got to figure out in my own mind how I want to go with it.
It used to be a newsletter. It used to just be a lot of type, and in the beginning there was no illustrations. There was nothing back in the 1970s, in the early 70s. Started adding art. Columns started getting longer and more complicated. Sometimes people put articles in. Sometimes people started adding comics, and it just makes for a more balanced issue. It's cool to have some more artwork and more comics. So.
I kind of see it as like a trade journal of sorts, where people can share their ideas, review, the membership.
Yeah, it's more than just a newsletter. It began as a newsletter 50-some years ago, but now it's a small press book in its own right.
There
you go. I got a few of those too, like several hundred.
Yeah. You said something that caught my ear.
Go ahead.
You wanna publish comics? Because I am terrible. I can draw the comics, I can draw the story, but actually putting them together and getting them to the printer and all that, I'm terrible at.
I want to do that, because there's
you would do that if I sent you work. You would put it together. And...
I could put it together for you. It would take some time.
We
do it over time and fix it the way because I like with some of the stuff that I've been putting in the New People's Journal. I'll send the interviews and go, do you like the way this looks? If you don't like it, tell me, and you're the boss. Mm-hmm. You've done the honor of allowing the interview. Do you like the way it's formatted? Do you want to put another image in here? Does this need to be moved? Would you like it framed a certain way? And so I'm kind of meticulous with that because the customer is always right. And if
Absolutely.
if I'm going to say, I'm going to make a comic, I'm not going to be like, oh no, you ought to do this here. No, this is if I would suggest you do this, because it's kind of unbalanced with this other page or whatever. But if you're unsatisfied with it, I'm unsatisfied with it, and I want to kind of do that. We can try some of that.
I don't have anything right away, but I will.
If you want to with some stuff in the New People's Journal, like 1 or 2 pages, I can throw some in there. We can see how it would lay the tracks to run the trains that my railroad friend from Wisconsin.
Essentially, this was your first small press comic, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Your first actual.
Pretty good for the first one.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I didn't have very many people guiding me with that, though.
Yeah.
I just kind of had to go online and try to throw it. So you'll notice if you open it's very panel based. There aren't any splash pages or anything in there. Mostly because it came out of the newspaper. Where the newspaper, I don't have one here handy, but it's landscape. So it runs. So to translate that into
the closest to a splash panel we have here.
That's just you should see the new one that I've redone that where they're an airplane and they're at an airport and all that, and it is a legitimate full. There's no margin along the edge. So yeah, I've picked up some of these tricks from the UFO guys and from various other artists that are out there.
Yeah, there's some brilliant people out there, like John Muller, for instance, Larry Johnson. There's some people with all kinds of advice.
By the way, I don't know if he wants me to say this, but that new Origins issue is getting a new cover by John Muller.
You can't go wrong there, I'll tell you that. John is great.
It's going to be kind of hush because, like I said, it's going to take time because
John Muller right there. Look how good this guy is.
Look at that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking my time on redoing that one because it's happening along with writing the article review for TF, going through and getting the next issue out. Actually, I'm having to re-inventory. Of the 7 issues I have out, I'm almost out of number 5, so time to hit over there. And I've got it kind of economically where one book pays for the other with a tiny bit of profit, and then you roll that little profit out this way, and then I use that profit to reinvest into other books. We might come up with an annual. Isn't that cool? An annual. Stuff like annual.
It's amazing how much you get done because I know you have a full-time job, and you're doing all this, and it seems like you're constantly doing something. You have so much enthusiasm. Even the article, like you sent me this article for Tetragrammaton Fragments, and it was so long you had to resend it in a different format. But you have all that enthusiasm, all that energy, and that's amazing. Wait till you get as old as Larned and I. You won't have that.
You won't have that energy.
It's all part.
Yeah, you will. I hope so.
Out of the process, my friend. The process is front load. So Druid 2 is already there. Druid 3 is almost finished. After that is a collaboration with Ryan Howlett with his Badger character. That one is storyboarded. I've got Candidate Calamity running in McGee's that's going to be expanded into a full-size one. So this stuff exists already. And so I have 3 months between issues. 90 to 100% of the issues already done. I can just, I did this. One of the questions that y'all had asked off screen was, how did the pandemic affect you?
Right.
And the pandemic did a lot. First of all, when I was teaching from home, and that was for a semester. And I'd never done that. And so I was like doing live TV every day. And then since none of the stuff existed online, I had to create it all. So I'd get off at the computer at 4:30 and then eat, take a nap, and then start writing the next lesson for the next few days.
Wow.
And then all the way till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. At 5 o'clock in the morning, kids would start submitting their work. At 7 o'clock, parents, how come you haven't graded my kid's work? And I'm like, well, I have to sleep sometime, you know. And so I kind of went through that phase. Then we had the split phase where I was doing live TV from the classroom with half the kids there and half of them at home. Then I got the plague. And I thought I literally, the way that it was hyped up at the time, I called my mother crying. I go, I'm going to die. This is it. You know, people are dying all over the country. We've lost, you know, family members and stuff here. I love you all and all this. And she was like, no, that's not going to be the way it's going to be. You're going to be fine. You're young. And I go, I'm not young. I used to be young.
Yeah.
So I kind of got over that, and I started drawing. So I'm in there watching old 80s, like Benson and all this other stuff that's coming through YouTube. Right? I quarantined to where I was just in my room there for like 2 or 3 weeks. I did all this stuff. I started communicating with Bailey and all these other people, and when the pandemic ended, that's when I said, you know what? I didn't die. I'm gonna live. I'm gonna live.
Make it through.
Yeah, I'm on the other side. I survived the plague, and now there's a book making it. And hey, 2 horsemen of the apocalypse out of 4 ain't bad. No, but so I said I'm gonna figure out what to do. So I printed. I said I'm gonna take Origins. I did it in Yeats. Let's do it, you know, in our own format. Let's figure out how to do this. Let's go somewhere with this. I want to learn to do the small press the way you guys do, the home version, the kind of like more personalized printing. I want to make some of those, but I'm gonna need to ask, you know, how do you staple it? You know,
now you got to get a big long stapler.
Well, my copier just exploded.
You got to have a big long one.
Like where am I? Where do I get that sort of stuff? And that's just a matter of doing it, because I don't want to send. The Comic Wellsprings is in is in Michigan, so it like I got a pack of comics, a load of number 7 coming in, and it's supposed to arrive on my porch sometime, but it takes weeks to get there, you know, and then I got to mail it off to people, and so that takes more time. And so I like to have, you know, a few things that are like self-made or locally made, so that I can you know. Make some more I can produce more content. Yeah,
digest size, nice digest size comics. They're not hard to do.
Pretty blank. We got an outfit like comics. We got an outfit like that in Orlando too. And it's like right downtown Orlando. It's not that far from here, but I haven't been there. And I can't think of the name of it right now for some reason. But I did use them one time when I did the reprint of album number 1, that 50-year-old zine that I published 50 years ago. Well, it wasn't 50 years ago. It's 50 years old now, but it wasn't then.
Well, see, like, this is really home. This is proof of concept for Cat to the Future, which is the second part of it. And he, you know, binds it up and all this. But I think he goes to Kinko's or someplace like that, and that tends to be on the expensive. So one of the things I want to also figure out
is Kinko. This is Kinko's right here.
Is it expensive? It looks like it may be.
It could be. But when you add the color covers and stuff, it could be. Yeah. But you know, I do some of it on my home copier, my home printer here. But wait a minute, it just came back on. It was dead. That's
not
weird.
dead anymore, huh? Came back to life.
What is a light on? I thought this thing was completely dead, but now there's a light on. That's weird.
The next light fire and the next thing will be smoke.
Anyway, I do some of it at home and I do some of it at Kinko's.
I know you have to work in the morning, Joe. So we better kind of wrap things up, don't you think?
Yeah, I want to finish up with one small question, and then we'll play to the conclusion. Any last words?
You have a last word there, Steve, for Joe?
Now, it says
I think he covered what I did.
You asked had he ever been in the Civil Air Patrol?
Oh yeah. In fact, I've been in the Civil Air Patrol since 1999.
I thought so. I just guessed. Yeah.
Were any of you guys ever in it as cadets or?
No.
Not I.
No.
Yeah, we just
I was in the Army, the real Army, but not the Civil Air Patrol.
Well, let me tell you something.
I was in college.
I had to cut my hair today because we started some cadets at the school where I work at, and so I'm outfitting it with uniforms. They're all excited about it.
Oh my.
Here's the thing that I want to end on with this, because a lot of people send me messages. I got uniform people who are sticklers. Oh, your uniforms are pretty good, but this ribbon is not appropriate. And I was like, well, yeah, because
details.
Look very World War II, and it's fictional.
Yeah, I made it up.
An Air Force. Civil Air Patrol is the Air Force Auxiliary, and Lion Squad is an Air Force Auxiliary. So they're not technically in the mainline Air Force, but they kind of are. But they're operating in their own area. So people that the Air Force would never do that. Fictional.
Picky.
Lion Squad and the Lion Squad's made up of two things. It's made up of the Skywatch, and it's made up of the squadron, the Wrangler Squadron, which is the flying part. And then Marty and Nico are their own department. They're the superheroes that are attached to this. That operates more like the Civil Air Patrol than like the Air Force. And so Air Force people say, well, the Air Force would never do this. And I go, yeah, but the Civil Air Patrol does something similar. And characters that you meet in the, quote, Air Force and military that Marty and Nico meet are based on archetypal people that I have met over the past 25 years.
Oh, my God. Okay.
So the General Morelli character, there was a guy like that.
Oh.
The way that the girls have to kind of like come into their own and knowing all this drill ceremony and whatever, there were people like that. Pilots that would suddenly be brevetted to captain, and they know nothing of the Civil Air Patrol, but because they have the pilot's rating. And you can always tell, I always say, by reading the ribbons on the chest. So I got a stack of ribbons because I've done it from the beginning. And so I got all this stuff. A new pilot that gets promoted to like captain has no ribbon, or he'll have like prior service ribbons, because you can wear your Army or Navy prior service ribbons on your Civil Air Patrol uniform. So Marty and Nico are coming into that sort of thing. So it's not really like the Air Force. It's more like the CAP. Civil Air Patrol people are like, oh, yeah, I know that. That's a stand eval officer from. That's how they operate, and this is how this works. And I go, yeah, it's fictional. It's a fictional. It's what the Civil Air Patrol people that I know want Civil Air Patrol to be like. They want to have Thunderbolt, advanced technology. They want to have the funds to do all this stuff. Which in the Civil Air Patrol, ever since World War II, we've been kind of winging it. We've been, it started out to fight Nazi subs with people flying their own planes, and it eventually, as the Cold War and everything, it became more of an institution of let's do some stuff continental U.S. that the Air Force can't, but we're always kind of doing the mostest with the leastest. And we're good at it, and so you see some of that in how that operates. And so I figured y'all wanted to get that question in before you.
Yeah, I did because I thought from the beginning the girls were in the Civil Air Patrol.
They kind of are there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Anyway, we really appreciate you coming on. Great guest.
Very much enjoyed this.
Really enjoyed it. We don't have to, prod you to do a little more answer. You're great. You did a great job, and I hope everybody enjoys it. I know we had fun doing it, and I hope you had a good time. So,
all right, y'all have a good one.
We will be talking to you. All right, we'll see you, folks. We're going to end it right now. And I wanted to do one more thing. I want to give a shout out to Rick Therio. He has a character called the Old Fat Detective, and he has made a movie. It's quite something to see. You've got to see this. It's called The Man Without a Fortune. And the old fact detective is the star. And this is on Vimeo, so I will put a link down below so you can get there. But it's really worth a watch. In fact, I had to watch it twice just to catch everything that's in it. So if you get a chance, take a look at Rick Therio's Old Fat Detective, The Man Without a Fortune. And I think you will really get a kick out of it.